Hello, students, and welcome to my online lecture here for Psychology for Dummies. Today, we're going to be going over Maslow's hierarchy of needs and Erikson's stages of development. We're going to be starting out today's lecture with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, starting at the bottom tier, which would be physiological. That includes your food, water, shelter, also known as your basic survival needs. Accomplishing this goal would mean that you are surviving in the lowest form and that you are not in any type of danger. You would have a place to stay, a bed, food, nutrition. You'd be meeting all your physiological needs. A failure to meet this would result in possible life-threatening situations. The next tier on our pyramid here is safety. Safety is defined as feeling protected from injury and death. Failure would be to be afraid for your well-being. And this would be relating to us because right now in the United States, we are not in any type of feeling of danger for our lives, unlike those currently in the Ukraine. Those in the Ukraine are not meeting their safety goal because they are in constant fear of their life from attacking from foreign powers. Our next tier is our love and belonging tier. It would be having some social connections of family, friends, somewhere you can confide into, the feeling of some kind of compassion. You would be getting everything that you would need, psychology, with your psychological needs. A failure to meet this would be not having someone to confide in, resulting in possible depression or lower sense of self. Which brings us to our next tier in our psychological needs, which is esteem. Esteem would be being felt respected by your peers, cohorts, students. It would relate to us in the sense that I respect you students, and you students have the same respect for me, in the sense you would turn on your grade assignments on time, and I would grade them professionally, and effectively, in that sense, our top tier here is self-actualization. It is in a solo tier on its own with their self-fulfillment needs. Self-actualization is only met not too many times in your lifetime. You've only accomplished this when you've achieved a major feat. Something like when you would be graduating your high school diploma, or maybe you would be graduating college with some sort of degree, achieving a dream job, maybe becoming a parent. Failure of this step would be dropping out of high school. So, in other words, you would be failing to reach a full potential point in your life. This would affect your emerging adults. And with that, we conclude our self-actualization tier. Moving on, we have Erikson's stages of development. With Erikson's stages of development, we have 8 tiers. Age ranges follow from 0 to 18 months, 18 months to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, 5 to 13, 13 to 21, 21 to 39, 40 to 65, 65 plus. Starting at the first tier, we have trust versus mistrust. This affects your 0 to 18 months olds, otherwise known as infants. During this stage, infants will decide whether or not that they can trust the world that they're currently in. A positive success in this stage would mean baby would interact with others, i.e. the parents, or maybe a grandmother, grandfather, aunt, uncle. The negative connotation with this is mistrust, which would mean the baby becomes withdrawn from others, and you would experience some kind of unnecessary whininess, fussiness, possibly an unwillingness to eat. It would relate to us because to me at least, because my mom provided comfort with teething and provided food when I was hungry, which would accomplish our trust in the mistrust stage of development. So, in other words, if you've got a stable home, you would be in the trust category, setting you up for positive outlooks on life. Our next tier is in the 18-month to 3-year-old category with autonomy versus shame and doubt. With this, we're going to see toddlers who want to be able to have some kind of independence with their physical activities, such as going to the bathroom on their own or being able to dress themselves. A toddler would want to feel empowered with autonomy here. You would be able to do things on their own. A negative, the failure to do this would be resulting in shame and or doubt. It would be having a lack of sense of independence and most likely result in a feeling of being less than. This would relate to me on a personal note because when I was this age, my mother would allow me to be able to choose the outfits I would like to wear, giving me that sense of autonomy so that I can be more independent later on in life. Next, we have our 3 to 5-year-old age category, which would be initiative versus guilt. Initiative versus guilt would be defined as being able to assert power in an environment or expressing one's emotions. A successful achievement of this can lead to the child learning a sense of purpose in its life, a sense of proudness, some would say. Negative for this, resulting in somewhat of guilt, would be an overexertion of power, resulting in disapproval from elders in the relationship of the parent-child, and a sense of feeling guilt. This relates to me because I would be, in my childhood, we'd be actively playing with other children in our neighborhood, and we would form teams for sports like basketball, baseball, football. Choosing teams with the neighborhood kids leads to a sense of pride for myself because you feel like you're almost exerting your power in a sense that you're able to choose fair teams with other children so that nobody's upset and everyone can go along and have a good time. The next ring here is our 5 to 13-year-olds with our industry versus inferiority. Children's need to cope with new social and academic demands. This would be your kindergarten-age children, first grade, second grade, that are just entering school and learning a new social dynamic with their academic and making new friends they have not made before. Success in this sense can be achieving a sense of proudness with their ability to kind of take hold of their situation and succeed. A failure in this would result in the child feeling subpar to their fellow students. This would result in a sense of inferiority. This relates to me because when I was in first grade, my teacher had these addition quizzes that we would have to take, and there was a star chart. So every time you would pass a test, you would get another star, like a ranking system. So you would always compete with the other kids because you want more stars. It's a competition. So this gave me the sense of initiative almost to succeed and push my own limits to be able to get where I need to be. Next up is our 13 to 21-year-olds with identity versus role confusion. This would be defined as teens with a sense of self and personal identity, a positive outlook, which would be the identity portion of this. The teens will be able to achieve a personal identity based off of their parental and cultural influences, structuring that into something that they can adapt to their own life. A negative for this would be a failure, and that is resulting in role confusion. This would lead to a weaker sense of self-image, and can lead to feeling somewhat of an outcast in their general setting. This relates to me because in high school, I was able to find my own sense of personal identity when I would join after-school clubs, and I would align with others that had the same beliefs as me, giving me some kind of self-identity and a sense of being. Next is our 21 to 39-year-olds. That is intimacy versus isolation. This is defined as the need to form loving relationships with others, finding compatibility and affection. Succeeding in this would put you in the intimacy category. It would be sharing bonds with others, potentially lifelong relationships. A failure could result in loneliness and anxiety about forming close relationships with other people. This would relate to me because me and my significant other have formed a steady, healthy, and close relationship, which aligns exactly with the intimacy portion of our intimacy versus isolation. Second to last is our 40 to 65-year-olds. We've got generativity versus stagnation. And for those who don't know, generativity is a sense of giving back. Stagnation is plateauing. It's defined as creating or nurturing things that will outlast yourself and creating a positive change in the world around you. A sense of succeeding in this gives you a sense of usefulness and some kind of accomplishment. Failing in this, resulting in stagnation, would result in a shallow involvement of the world and towards others around you. This does not relate to me, but it all relates to my parents. They're currently in this stage, as they are in the 40 to 65-year-old age range. After asking them, interviewing them rather, about how their feelings about how they are in their own lives, I've decided based on their answers that they are in the generativity category because from what they've said, they feel a sense of accomplishment from the success of the children that they've had, feeling some sense of fulfillment from the accomplishments they have procured, and they see this outlasting them and having some sense of positive outlook about this. Lastly, we have our 65 years and older category, which results in integrity versus despair. Your integrity versus despair is basically, are you going to be going out in style or are you going to be going out as a crab? Your older adults need to be able to look back on their lives and find some sense of fulfillment, that they've done something with their lives. A positive, your positive outlook would be integrity, leads to a sense of having wisdom that can be passed on to others. Your opposite here would be despair. Despair would be having regrets with the life that you've lived and results in a bitterness towards others in the world. Nothing good comes out of this, and most people in this are not happy with the way that their life is being led. This does not relate to me as well, as I'm not in the 65 years or older category, but I have interviewed my grandfather, who is in this category. He says that he feels that he is in the integrity category and not despair, because he can look back on his life and seeing that he's created multiple generations of people, with his children and his grandchildren being me. And he can feel a sense of accomplishment with that because he's seeing multiple of these generations exploring their exploring what they want to do and accomplishing their goals. So he has a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment in his life because he is seeing the fruits of his labor finally develop. And this is concluding our lecture on the Erikson stages of development and the Maslow hierarchy of needs. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful day.